guys, this is Christy Yoder for another episode of the Master Delegator podcast. Today, I am so excited to talk to Tiffany Prince. She is a renowned speaker, consultant, coach, and owner of Prince Performance LLC. Today, I'm so excited because we are going to talk about how hiring a virtual assistant changed her life and business for the better and how to engage and collaborate in our new reality as leaders. Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Christy Yoder, host of the Master Delegator podcast. The Master Delegator podcast is for busy and overwhelmed entrepreneurs who want to learn how to become effective in the area of delegation and learn how to hire great virtual assistants to help them scale their business and have more time and freedom. If you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing and don't forget to click the notification bell so you get notified every time I post a new video. All right, let's get started. Hey, Tiffany, thanks for being on the Master Delegator podcast.
Hello. Good to see you, Christy.
Good to see you too. I'm so excited to get to know more about you. So why don't we dig deeper and dive into our topics for today? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm actually a science geek, so I really started off in doing a marine biology degree. So that's a completely different pivot than what I'm doing today. Yeah. But fun fact, I actually was a sea lion trainer at one point. Yeah. So I did that for a little bit, but unfortunately that didn't pay off my student loans. So I actually got into the biotech pharma space to start off my career. And early in that, I actually became what they call like an accidental trainer. They're like, you're really good at training people. Why don't you do that? And so I found my passion and love for developing other people, which leads really nicely to kind of what I do today, which is I'm focusing more on leadership, and especially when it's conjunction to technology, change, and leaders, and how do leaders need to prepare for this ever-changing world, especially in the times that we're in right now. And I actually have a book that I wrote, and that was actually talking to interviewing people around the world, and was really trying to define what does great leadership look like? How do you define that? And it surprisingly, or maybe not, it's really hard to define. But what I did was kind of distill down to certain key attributes and styles that will hopefully resonate. And especially looking at it now, these are the things that teams and employees are looking for and why they stay with organizations. So if you can tap into those skills and really utilize them, you'd have a better high-performing team, I have found, in those clients that I work with.
Wow, that is awesome. And I totally agree with you. Sometimes it's hard to really identify what does it mean to be an effective leader. Somebody may say giving detailed instructions and telling them exactly how to do something, that's great leadership. But other people might say, just tell them, the purpose of the task and let them figure it out. So you can teach them how to be resourceful and be proactive, and there's nothing wrong with those two. It's just different style, different approach. And,
Yes.
it might work for one leader, but for another leader, it might not work, depending as well on who they are working with, like the personality of the person that they are working with. I handled more than 60 team members at my agency, and I find that each individual, regardless if they are both introvert or extroverts, their personalities are still different. Some like one person is okay with just telling them what to do, even if you don't give them specific instructions, but other people might not be okay with that. So I totally agree with you that effective leadership depends on maybe your background or maybe your upbringing, your culture, and all that kind of stuff. But I'm interested to know, all of that, But I am interested to know about the different attributes and styles that you think are effective when it comes to leading people.
Yeah. Well, the things that I'm leading or really talking about right now, especially in the space where we're not always co-located, we're, maybe working with hybrid teams, we have different opportunities. There are three key skills that I have been seeing that are really predominant and necessary in this kind of trying to keep people on your team. One is adaptability. And that's really just kind of, let's face it, we have uncertain times right now. We're going to have uncertain times going. And I find there's a great quote that I like to kind of talk about. In times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that does not exist. I think that really resonates with me. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
But it's the adaptability piece. We need to flex and change and try different things. I think this is a great opportunity for us leaders and organization to try different things, try different teaming models, try different ways of working that aren't the traditional, let's face it, industrial age mindset of what's going on.
That's true. And I actually just Googled, the meaning of adaptability. Not that I don't know what it means, but I kind of want to have like a different perspective on that, on that word. And it says here, the first one, it says the quality of being able to adjust to new conditions, which is kind of what you were talking about. And the second one, I like the second one. It says the capacity to be modified for a new use or purpose.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that is just, I feel like that second definition that I found in Google, I feel like that should be our mindset when it comes to like adaptability. Because we're in a different world right now. It's the pandemic, you have to adjust to different things, especially when you are so used to working, in your cubicle. You're surrounded by, four walls, but now you have to adapt to working from home because you cannot go to your office. You don't have a choice but to work from home. So I think that's what it says. That's what it means. To be to have the capacity to be modified for a new use or purpose.
Yeah. It's having what I like to say is a growth mindset. I don't know if you're familiar with Carol Dweck. She did a lot of research on that. And there's growth mindset and there's a fixed mindset. Fixed mindset is something that a lot of people it's kind of how we grew up in school. So you have a certain amount of intelligence and you are what you are based on your SAT scores or whatever. And that's what you're going to be. And you can never kind of grow from there. I can't do that is kind of a statement people say. Versus a growth mindset is more, well, maybe I didn't do well in that, but what if I worked on it? Or what if I changed this? Or what if I did something differently? Would the outcome be different the next time? And the statement you hear is, I can't do that yet. And that's a very clear and different distinction of, maybe I can't do this today, but I can always build the skills or learn or do something different in the future.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that. And I don't know if you're familiar with DISC profile.
Yes.
Dominant, what's I?
Influence,
and S is steady, and then compliance. And steady and compliance people, I think those are the people who find it hard to adapt to changes. And so what is the best thing to do with that? If you have that kind of personality, and I think when you mentioned growth and fixed mentality, I think they're more on the side of fixed mentality, that I'm okay where I am at right now. I don't want to change. I'm comfortable here. So how do you work with those kind of people?
Absolutely. And kind of I want to tie back a little bit to what you were saying before, is understanding and flexing your leadership style to meet where people are. Yes, there are people that are wired, of course, differently than you are. And you need to understand where they're starting from and that motivational value of how they look at the world and their intention. And some people have a harder time with change. But my recommendation for working with those people is to focus on their building their emotional intelligence and relationship intelligence. And by understanding themselves and building their self-awareness, they can be a bit more empathetic and maybe go, with the flow or understand the change. I find when I'm working with those that are more in the S and the C kind of mindset, you have to build out the why. You kind of have to build that case study and understand, like help them understand why now, versus like, let's just try it. That tends to be my personality, but
me too.
But not everybody is freewheeling as as that. So I understand and recognize that. So that's my self-awareness in working with my team and understanding what do they need in order to get on board with the change.
Yeah, that's true. You really have to like explain to them the reason behind this specific change that you want to implement. Otherwise, they're not going to be fully on board with it, with their whole heart. They might just follow it because you said you're the boss, so they don't have a choice. If they don't follow, you're going to fire them, But it's always important to explain to them, the rationality behind that change. All right, so you said adaptability. What is the second one?
So that ties nicely to what we were just talking about, connection. And connection is really about, how do you connect to your team? How do you communicate with them? What is their preferred communication style? Is it a text? Is it an email? How do you make that connection for them, maybe even outside of the team? I was just reading something this morning about senior leaders are very worried about culture. And so that's why they're doing a big push to get people back in the office, because it's those informal conversations that you have. But, there's a lot of us, including yourself and myself, we've been working kind of in a hybrid remote not located together for a long time. But I would say that our companies have culture. So how you build that is just setting up those team operating principles. And you can actually like outline a charter, like, here's how we make decisions. Here's how we collaborate with each other. Like I used to tell my team when I was traveling, if it's an urgent thing, text me. And as soon as I have a break from my client meeting, I'll run out and like give you a call when I can, versus an email, which is like, you need to respond to that, but it's not urgent. So we had like levels of escalation. So I knew if it's something that I need to jump on right away or not.
Right.
And the other thing too, one of the best things, I was interviewing a VP from Latin America, Sodexo, and she said the way that she built her connection on her teams. Now, mind you, this is before pandemic, but she would put the picture of that person up on her computer. So even if they didn't have their video up, she could feel like she was talking to them and making that connection.
Wow.
There are just ways you can do that.
Yeah, that's really good. And you know what? I feel like it's kind of like testing your culture. If your team or if you as a leader is so used to working in an office, and then all of a sudden, you were like kind of forced to work from home and then communicate with one another remotely, I feel like it's a test of your company's culture as well, because I feel like your culture should not be dependent on your location, and
Right.
you should be able to still have the same culture regardless if it's offline or online. Yes, there will be minor challenges, but it shouldn't be your culture, your core values should not be dependent on your location. And if other people or leaders, business owners are having a hard time with their workplace culture right now because everything is online, then that may mean, that they weren't able to like solidify their core values, or they weren't able to have like a solid foundation, on their culture.
Right. Trust and respect is the key foundation to that, right?
Exactly.
You have to build psychological safety for people to feel like they can bring up challenges and different things and work through issues. And you as a leader may have to be a bit more proactive in reaching out to people, making sure, checking in. There's definitely a lot of mental health issues that are coming up too with the people being, by themselves, especially single people. It's just checking in, and maybe you don't always check in on what's your update on your work status? It's like, wow, happy birthday. Or I just realized you bought your first house. That's amazing. Right.
Yep.
Personal connections
it's
too.
having that personal connection. Gone are the days when CEOs, founders, business owners are not connected with their employees. We're not like Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates, like
no, I don't want to be either.
It's lonely up there. It's
lonely.
lonely up there. That's why you need to connect to your downlines. Right. Otherwise, you'll just be lonely up there. It's hard. You don't have anybody to talk to, but I don't know, your laptop or your pet, if you have one at home. But yeah, I totally agree with you. It's important to connect with whoever you are working with, regardless of the status, regardless of the position.
Yep.
All right, so let's go to the third one. I'm excited.
Okay. So the last one, I kind of touched on it a little bit already, but I want to overemphasize it because this is something that I feel like leaders need to build that muscle a little bit more, is empathy. And the reason why I bring up empathy is because you really have to understand where your thoughts, the strengths of your team, and kind of where they're coming from, the perspective. This comes into play key for building out diverse and inclusive environments and making sure that people belong. If they don't feel heard, again, they're not going to have that trust and respect and be open and honest with you and be passionate for the work that they're doing. And they're at risk for leaving your organization. And let's face it, nobody right now wants to lose anybody, right? Because it's really hard to backfill with great talent. They have lots of options. It's harder. It's a longer lead time. So really, I find being empathetic and really trying to understand where people are and meeting them is key to keeping your team, having a high performing team, and building those bridges with others and saying, hey, it's okay. I may not necessarily agree with your perspective or don't understand where you're coming from, but I am more enriched because I reached out and tried to understand your perspective, which could build innovation and creativity in your team by fostering that.
Exactly, yeah. And speaking of empathy, because you cannot have empathy without caring for that person. Otherwise, your empathy will not be authentic and genuine. So I like listening to John Maxwell, and one of the things that I learned from him is that, team members, one of the questions that they ask their leader, or one of the questions that they want to ask their leader, or what they want to see from their leader is, do you care about me? Because if you care about me and I asked you a question, or I need help from you, you would help me because you care for me, and you would help me for my well-being, for the sake, for that team member's sake. But if you don't care about me and you're gonna help me, you're not gonna help me to the best of your ability because you don't care about that person, right? I mean, right. if you care for that person, you don't even have to worry about being inconvenienced because you authentically want to help, and you are empathetic enough to go out of your way and go beyond, the extra mile to help out that person. And I feel like as a leader, that's very important because it has something to do with connection as well, and adaptability. Those I feel like those three are really connected. Like it's like a circle. Like you cannot go to this point without going to this, not these two things. Right. Yeah. So I really like that.
Yes.
Yeah, and so adaptability, connection, and empathy. ACE. You have an acronym for these. ACE. Like I realized.
Do. There's another. ACE. I have it in my book. It's ACE Focus. It's one chapter that I have built out a model on. Originally, it was for building out global teams that aren't co-located, but it's obviously applicable to today, and probably even more important now to help us.
Exactly. Yeah. So you've been in business for more than 10 years, and you've helped a lot of leaders and businesses, and I'm sure that whatever you have recommended to those leaders, or whatever kind of help you've given to those leaders, you did it to yourself first, to your own business first. So I want to know, how did virtual assistants you know, gave you like a better life and in general maybe and business?
Yes. I've always been a leader that was not shy of delegating. So I honestly, as soon as I became a leader within organizations, I believed in the ability for people to grow, learn, develop themselves. And the only way they're going to do that is by giving them, maybe some stretch goals or different things. So I've always been in the mindset, like, I don't have a lot of control issues, so that's okay. Um, and that has served me well, because I find that I can focus on the things that are really impactful for my business. And in synergy, I can work with those that probably can do it better, faster, and easier than I can, right?
Right.
And so I definitely want to. I know what my strengths are, the things that I like to work on, and so as I'm growing my team and my business, I'm certainly looking at what are those key skill sets and ways that I can develop my team, so that I don't always have to do everything. Especially when you start off as a business owner, you do have to wear a lot of hats, let's face it, right? As you're growing your business. But where there's opportunities to outsource, or you maybe bring in part-time or even full-time employees, those are things that, you can say, okay, I have done that now, but now I can move it forward with somebody else. And that's kind of the mindset that I have used. Is I've always liked working with a team. I think they provide a different perspective. I have, VA, I definitely full on board, loving it. It makes me have less stress, because I know, like, for instance, this afternoon, my monthly newsletter is going out because my virtual assistant is putting that out there for me. I don't have to worry about that. So it's just amazing for me to know that. And she's helping me, grow my business and do the visibility. And honestly, she's amazing and great that, she can do that for me and has made my newsletter look amazing. So
that's really great to hear. When you said about, it's important to know what you can do and what you cannot do, as a leader, that means that you have humility as well, because you are humble enough to accept that, hey, I'm a leader, I'm a great leader, but I'm not Superman, I'm not Wonder Woman, I cannot do everything. I am not God, I'm not omniscient, omnipotent, whatever attributes there are, but you cannot be in two places at the same time, right? So
yep.
It's I really admire leaders or business owners who can say to themselves, I cannot do everything. I know what my strengths are and I know what my weaknesses are. And I feel like those kind of leaders are the leaders that are going to succeed in life, because they know how to ask for help, and they know where to focus their time and energy, like what you said, you focus on things that are impactful to your business. I like that you use the word impactful, because most people, or maybe me, I will just use the word important to my business. But you use the word impactful, so I love that. It's like, yes, make it more powerful to like delegate, because the intention behind not doing something, because that if you don't do that thing, that means you're gonna do something that is impactful to your business, and it has return on your business as well. So tell me about the time when you weren't delegating yet. Like, what was it like?
I can tell you, I actually have a really interesting story that was a lesson learned for me. This is my first global team that I had. And I was put in this position to build out the capability of this department. That was my goal for 2 years. I was supposed to do that. So at first it was just me. And I was, still kind of building team, but I was working 14, 16-hour days. This was in the London, UK office. I did not realize one night, I was there late. I was almost always the first one in the office and guaranteed the last one in the office. So I was working, crazy hours. I went to go downstairs to leave the office, the building, and we had multiple building people in there. There was a security guard down there, and he actually bolted the door closed and had left for the night. I was stuck in my office overnight.
Wow.
Because I don't know, he just didn't see me around. He usually did a sweep, but he didn't see me. And I think that's where it hit me, like, I need some help. Like, I need to ask for help and I need to get some help. Because I tell you what I did, I went back into my office, I put my head down on the desk, and I just like burst out into tears because it was just like, I had enough, you know? So
It must be really scary because I'm imagining the lights were off, it's dark out there, and you're the only one.
yeah. And it's like,
Oh
where am I going
my.
to sleep? And I'm going to be in the same clothes and people come in the office, you know. Oh, it was a lesson learned. I knew. So I asked the security guard, I was like, what time do you lock up at night? He goes, oh, you were locked in? I said, yeah, you left me in there.
That's
I had no
crazy.
idea because, you know, in my corporations in the US, that's never an issue. Like, you can all, you know, you have the key card and you can come and go as you please. That was unusual. They were just, you know, they're out, done,
Right. Yeah.
locking up for the night.
That's a good lesson. you know I mean, I'm not saying that I'm glad that it happened to you. I'm not saying that, but that's a good lesson to learn, because and I'm glad that you learned from it, because if not, then you might camp out in your office every night.
I mean, it's easy, especially again, as you're starting out your business, but even as, a director, VP, it's easy to work those long hours because you always have something to do, right?
Right.
And I think that's the thing, is thinking about, again, the impactful things that I can do versus delegating. Maybe somebody else can do that, somebody else on my team, maybe a different department. It's just having those conversations and understanding. It really does. A lot of it comes down to time management too.
Right.
Being strategic.
Exactly. So what do you say to leaders or business owners who are not delegating yet?
Yeah, I'm a leadership coach, so I do coach people on this very, very prevalent thing that happens out there. I mean, the first thing I talk about and try to help them understand is boundaries, right? If you want a balance in your life, we're not robots. You need to understand boundaries, and sometimes saying no is the best thing to do, right? The other thing is just understanding that, is this serving you in the best purpose? And are you surviving, or are you thriving? There's a difference, right? You're surviving, you're working. You might be hustling, but you're burning yourself out. You might have, having anxious, anxiety, depression. You're not working out. You're not taking care of yourself. You're stressed out. That leads to health issues, right? I wouldn't say that's surviving. Thriving is, I have the balance and I know what's important for me, how I keep myself healthy, mentally, physically, and also being able to have that social aspect, because friends and family are important.
Right, exactly. That's really good. And those questions are like really good questions to ask yourself as a leader. Why are you doing what you're doing? Is it beneficial to you? Is it impactful to your business, or can somebody else do that for you? I feel like if you're a leader, business owner, entrepreneur, if you are desiring to grow your business or to grow as a person, ask those questions to yourself, and spend 10 minutes or 15 minutes to kind of just reflect on those questions, because I believe those are powerful questions. I hate asking questions to myself because pride gets in the way. Like even simple things like, okay, I want to buy something from Amazon. Do I really need this, or do I want this? Even that simple question,
Yeah.
I hate that, but it's needed. It's
Yes.
those kind of question, even if they sound simple, you need to ask those questions to yourself to kind of reflect on what you are doing in your life and in your business.
Yeah.
So this has been great, Tiffany. Do you have any free resources that you want to share to our audience?
Yes, actually, I have one of my chapters I'm going to have as a download for a PDF, so we can have that. It's the first
Nice.
chapter about bring out the best in your team, and I talk about leadership styles, the 9 attributes, and things to be aware of that could be um, overused strengths that we should be cognizant of to maybe taper down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I like that. So where can they go to find that out?
I'll send you the link.
Okay, you send me the link. All right. And where can people find you online?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I have lots of things going on there, but also my website, topofthemountainleadership.com. And I'd love to catch up with anybody if they want to talk about leadership and this new crazy hybrid workspace that we're working on.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, whoever you are that's listening to this episode, feel free to reach out to Tiffany if you have any questions about leadership or just self-improvement, leadership development. I think it's really important to have someone you can talk to and be accountable with. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany. This has been great.
Thank you, Christy. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
Likewise. Thank you. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video and you want to listen to the full episode, please type in Master Delegator on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast channels, or simply click the link in the description box below. Also, please subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you again on the next episode. Bye.